Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levi, your guest co-host, the two-time Half the Battle Handicapper of the Year, Mr. Andrew Gombas. Today, we're going to do our annual Half the Battle year-end awards. And Andrew Gombas, this is our fourth year doing this. Welcome back to Half the Battle.
Thanks for having me. I was just saying off air that I look forward to this every year. So let's get right into it.
Yes, sir. Let's do that because the first category is the knockout of the year. So let's take a look at the nominees for knockout of the year.
These are the nominees for 2025 knockout of the year. Rufy vs. King Green, UFC 313. Yuri vs. Roundtree, UFC 320. Leron Murphy vs. Aaron Pico, UFC 319. Ilia Topuria vs. Charles Oliveira, UFC 317. Quillan Salkild vs. Hakbarast, UFC 321. Malcolm Wellmaker vs. Cameron Simon, UFC Kansas City.
Man, there are some devastating knockouts on that list, and the winners are Leron Murphy and Ilia Topuria. So why'd you go with Topuria over Charles?
Yeah, there's two things I really loved about that knockout. Obviously, there were a ton of good ones to choose from, but with the Topuria one, obviously, it was such a big fight. Like, Charles Oliveira, obviously, massive name in the sport, like legend, future Hall of Famer, all that stuff. Topuria going up to get that second belt. He was a good sized favorite to do it, so it was expected that he was going to win. But to win in that fashion was just so impressive. And about the knockout itself, I thought it was sick. He threw a 2-punch combo there, and Oliveira was out after the first punch lands, but the second punch, like, he hit him, I think it was a right then a left. The right hand knocked him out, and then the left hand still landed super flush, and the way he just kind of fell back it was sick.
Yeah, that's definitely got to be up there. I hope we see him back soon. For me, it was Leron Murphy. I mean, this is a guy who was constantly disrespected. He's known for going to these decisions and people saying that he needs to separate himself. Well, he had a highly anticipated debutant in Aaron Pico in front of him, who had all the hype, was a big favorite. And Leron went out there and he separated himself from the pack that night. In my opinion, earned himself a title shot, but apparently he's getting a #1 contender fight with Evloev later next year. So, yeah, Leron Murphy for me, Topuria for you. Now let's talk about the submission of the year. So here are the nominees for submission of the year.
Here are the nominees for 2025 Submission of the Year. Gene Silva vs. Bryce Mitchell, Ninja Choke, UFC 314. Fluffy Hernandez vs. Roman Dolidze, Standing Rear Naked Choke, UFC Vegas 109. Walter Walker snatches 3 heels in 2025. Merab Dvalishvili vs. Sean O'Malley, Machine Choke, UFC 315. Uran Saltibaldihev vs. Dr. Nergoze, Ezekiel Choke, UFC Shanghai.
There are some 6 submissions this year, and the winners are look, it was a tough one for me, but the reason I went with Gene Silva over Bryce Mitchell is because there was so much heat on that fight. Like, usually when there's a lot of shit talk, the fights oftentimes don't live up to it, and boy, did this one live up to it. These guys were talking insane amounts of shit in the lead up, and then the fight was super violent, and it had a disgusting submission finish. So out of all the finishes this year, besides probably yours, I thought that was the most memorable, and for that reason, that's my submission of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with that. I kind of cheated on this category. I picked Walter Walker, 3 submissions in 1. You never really see heel hooks work at this level, and the fact that he's fought 3 times in 2025 and he's heel hooked 3 different people is hilarious. Like, especially at heavyweight too, where the guys are so big. Like, to see someone who's 260 pounds that's like doing a heel hook. Like, I'm sure you don't see that too often, even in like jiu-jitsu gyms, unless there's like a really wide gap of skill, and even then you wouldn't really be heel hooking like white belts for fun. But yeah, the fact that he's ranked now, the fact that he's just gotten ranked in the top 15 in the UFC from heel hooking people, to me is just, it's a unicorn. I really don't know if we'll ever see something like that again.
So you don't think he's going to heel hook 3 people next year?
Man, if he does, I think they're going to have to rename the sport after him or something.
Man, it's crazy what he's accomplished. And before we move on to the next category, you got to give a quick shout out to Meticulous. I mean, look at how much this show has leveled up this year. The
Incredible.
graphics, the videos, Meticulous, the GOAT. Shout out the GOAT Meticulous. Now, we got to talk about the fight of the year. So, I mean, I think my answer is going to be a little bit off the cusp on this one, but let's get into the nominees real quick.
These are the nominees for 2025 Fight of the Year. Brandon Royval vs. Joshua Van, UFC 317. Ibo vs. Iwo, UFC 323. Nazim Sadikov vs. Nicholas Mata, UFC Baku. Merab Valishvili vs. Umar Nurmagomedov, UFC 311. Chris Duncan vs. Mateusz Rambecki, UFC Vegas 108.
And the winners are look, I know that our answers are drastically different. I mean, I think yours is probably, like, technically speaking, one of the best fights of all time, and I can completely understand why you picked that. But I went Iwo versus Ibo just because, I mean, if you want to get casuals into the sport and you got to show them one fight, that's the one. I mean, it was just 30 seconds to a minute of nonstop chaos. One guy gets dropped, the other guy gets dropped. It happens over and over. I mean, the commentators were going crazy. I was going crazy. I don't know a single UFC fan that wasn't going crazy for that fight, and there weren't any low blows or eye pokes to ruin it. It was just violence from the second the bell rang to the second that Iwo knocked Ibo out, and for that reason, that's my fight of the year.
Yeah, it's funny because this is a category you can take so many different ways, right? And it's in terms of like a pure slobber knocker, like everyone's out of their seat. It's that one. For me, I went the technical route just because in my opinion, I think I might have even said this on this podcast at the end of last year. I had Merab and Umar as like 2 of my top pound for pound fighters in the entire sport. And at the time going into it, I think I could have even made a case for them being number 1 and number 2 in the entire sport. So seeing them have this really high level fight that had everything in it. It had, everything played a factor. There was striking, there was wrestling, there was, cardio played a factor. It was just so much high level in one fight, 125-minute fight. Ultimately, Merab pulled out a decision. I think he won 3 rounds to 2 on 2 of the cards, if I remember correctly. But it just goes to show how back and forth that fight really was. And in the 5th round, Merab just kind of outwardly showboating because he simply outlasted Umar, right? And it was just an incredible moment seeing a guy in Umar, who's minus 1,500 in his next fight against a former world champ, who's, you, me, or anyone else who watches the UFC would say he's an incredibly skilled fighter in all aspects of MMA. To look broken in that 5th round just kind of put a stamp on how awesome that back and forth war was. Yeah,
it was amazing. And shout out Josh Van and Brandon Royval and Nick Mata and Nazim Sadikov, because I know they're going to be fight of the year on everyone else's list, and rightfully so. They had incredible wars. Now, the fighter of the year. This is an interesting one because it's been quite the year. So let's see who are the nominees for Fighter of the Year in 2025?
Here are the nominees for 2025 Fighter of the Year. Merab the Machine Dvalishvili, Waldo Salsa Boy Cortez Acosta, Heoni Barcelos, Islam Makhachev, Piotr Yan, Joshua the Fearless Van,
And the winners for 2025 Fighter of the Year are Okay. So you went with Heoni Barcelos. I love it. I mean, why didn't you go with Makhachev? Why didn't you go with, someone else? Why'd you go with this guy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there were some great choices up there. The reason I went with Heoni Barcelos, I know it's definitely an out-of-the-box pick because he's not a champ. He didn't fight for a belt or anything like that. But this is a guy who paid his dues for so long. And, hardcores like us for years were saying, this guy's better than people think. And there were years where he would beat people like who were way beneath him, and then he wouldn't fight again. And then, he went through a period of time in like 2022, 2023, where he had lost 4 out of his last 5 fights. And, people, he's done, prime Heoni Barcelos is gone. He's never going to achieve his full potential in the UFC. Then he goes into this year, starts the year off by beating Peyton Talbot as a plus 650 underdog, goes and beats Cody Garbrandt, who's a former world champ, and then goes and beats Ricky Simone, who's another beast who's been ranked for years as well. And so he's going to be 39 in May. To have a career resurgence at like 38 years old in as low of a division as he's in, like you don't see 38, 39-year-old bantamweights going on 3-4 fight win streaks. And he did it against, like I said, he did it against one of the hottest prospects in MMA. He did it against a former world champ, and he did it against a perennial title contender. So for me, him going 3-0 in those fights was enough to get the crown for me.
Yeah, I mean, Heoni did his thing, and it's going to be interesting to see where he stacks up on our upset of the year list. But for my Fighter of the Year, I actually went with Joshua Van because, I mean, when you start off the year on the prelims against guys like Ray Saruya who aren't even ranked, you start the year on the prelims, you end the year with the belt. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And I know the fight against Pantoja was controversial. It was what it was. Look, if that was the only fight he had this year, then he wouldn't be my Fighter of the Year. But the fact that this guy fought 4 times this year, he's one of the most active fighters on the entire roster. I believe something came out, a graphic came out with all the champions and how active they've been in the last 5 years. This dude, Josh Vance, had like 18 fights in the last 5 years. This year alone, he had 4 fights. And like I said, from the prelims to the belt, that's my Fighter of the Year right there. So I went with Joshua Van. Now, the upset of the year. This is a real good one. I mean, there's been lots of upsets this year, just like any year, but this one's had a couple special ones. So let's look at the nominees for Upset of the Year.
These are the nominees for 2025 Upset of the Year. Michael Johnson vs. Daniel Zellhuber, UFC 318. Carlos Vera upsets Josias Masasa, UFC Vegas 104. Heoni Barcelos upsets Peyton Talbot, UFC 311. Daniel Rodriguez upsets Kevin Holland, UFC 318.
And I'm here to let the fans know that we have our first consensus, because the winner for the 2025 upset of the year is I mean, I think there's a reason we took Raoni Barcelos over Peyton Talbot for the upset of the year. You look at the number. I mean, that's the most important thing that, dictates how big of an upset it was. Well, it was right up there. Top three, if not number one upset of the year, just numerically speaking. And then you look at the stakes. I mean, Peyton Talbot had so much hype coming into that. I mean, the performance he put on against Cameron Simon was ridiculous. And then he knocks out Yanis Gemori in like the first exchange. Hey, here's a Raoni Barcelos, and Barcelos gave him a tour of the octagon, gave him that vet lesson. I love how Peyton's rebounded since then, but that doesn't matter in this award. What matters is this upset. And yeah, I think that Raoni had the biggest upset of the year, and I see you agree with me.
Yeah, I mean, I just touched on it, but what else could you ask for? Talbot, who a lot of people were and are again talking about as like a potential future title guy, against Barcelos, who had at one point lost 4 out of 5 fights and was on the brink of, he was in a close fight with Christian Quinones. If he had lost that fight last year, he probably is cut from the roster. And to go out there and just grind to get a win over a huge prospect in Peyton Talbot was really, really fun to see. And we talk about like over the span of a year, if I remember correctly, that was the first fight card of last year.
Yeah, the first pay-per-view.
It stood the test of time.
It really has. And I mean, still, I think we're going to look back at that 10 years from now as one of the greatest upsets that we've ever seen. Now, moving on to the breakthrough fighter of the year. This is an interesting category. I'm curious if I don't even know what Gombas's pick is. So let's look at the nominees for the breakthrough fighter of the year.
These are the nominees for breakthrough fighter of the year. Melky Costa, Faraziam, Walter Walker, Steve Garcia,
I honestly feel like there's an argument for all these guys to win this award, but let's see who got it. Oh, did we miss your pick on there? Hold on, you're muted, my guy.
I think I forgot to write in an answer for this category. I'm going with Faraziam as well. Not the fact that he beat Sadikov in his last fight, but just the way he did it. Like, people say, Ziam sticks on the outside, decisions people. Like, he hurt Sadikov, who's a tough fighter. And before that, got a win over Mike Davis, who a lot of people are high on. Ziam's going to be a guy going into 2026 that a lot of people are going to be talking about.
Damn, we had another consensus. We went with Faraziam. I mean, this is a guy that's been in the UFC since he was like 21, 22, since he was just a kid. Now he's a grown-ass man. He's paid serious dues inside the octagon, and now you see what he's developing into. I mean, I think that this guy this time next year could be a top 10 guy. So for that reason, Faraziam is our consensus breakthrough fighter of the year. Now, this one's always a good category, the performance of the year. I mean, sometimes these are one-offs, like you remember Cody Garbrandt against Dominic Cruz, Sean Strickland against Adesanya. Like, oftentimes the person that wins this doesn't go on to do other great things, and sometimes they do. You just never know. So let's look at the nominees for performance of the year.
These are the nominees for 2025 performance of the year. Khamzat Chimaev vs. Dricus du Plessis, UFC 319. Piotr Yan vs Merab Dvalishvili, UFC 323. Merab Dvalishvili vs Umar Nurmagomedov, UFC 311. Johnny Walker vs Mingyang Zhang, UFC Shanghai. Alex Pereira vs Magomed Ankalaev 2, UFC 320.
So this was up in the air up until the very end of the year for me. Look, maybe it's recency bias, but that performance that Peter Yan put on against Merab, I mean, that was vintage Peter Yan. And what's interesting about that, Gombas, I talked about this last week when I predicted, the champions this time next year. And there was a reason I didn't pick Peter Yan to be champ this time next year. It's not because I looked down upon him or anything like that, but it's because I saw him put on a similar performance of the year against Aljo the first time they fought. It looked like, man, this guy's going to be champion, for the next 10 years. And then he kind of has these hit or miss performances. Like some of them you think he might win, but it doesn't have the same dominance as like the first Aljo fight or this Merab fight right here. But that being said, this fight he put on against Merab in 2025, I mean, that was the performance of the year for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is another category where like I easily could have made that easily could have been my choice as well. The reason I went with Chimaev versus DDP is because DDP was a champion who had beaten some really solid guys, and Chimaev made him look like he didn't even belong in the same company. Like literally it would be like if, some guy just walked into your local gym and like was fighting in someone who has been doing it their whole lives. It was as dominant as a performance in a title fight that I could remember. Obviously, a lot of good choices like Yan and Merab, pound for pound #1 fighter going into that fight. So obviously what Yan did is insanely impressive. He clearly won. It wasn't like, it wasn't a back and forth fight. It wasn't, anything like that. But the reason I picked Chimaev is just the pure dominance and how bad he made Duplessis look when we know Duplessis is far from a bad fighter. So that's why I went with that as my performance of the year.
If anything, it was super dominant. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, the rookie of the year, this is always a great category, and I'm curious who's going to win it next year. So the stipulations are they had to have made their debut this year. And what's interesting about that is if Dricus du Plessis, if the incident never happened against Brendan Allen, he would still be disqualified from the conversation because his debut happened against Mearshart last year, not this year. But I feel like it was the end of last year. So you could have made an exception for him had he won the Brendan Allen fight. But guess what, Gombas? He did not win the Brendan Allen fight. So he is not on the rookie of the year list. And the nominees are.
These are the nominees for 2025 Rookie of the Year. Quinlan Salkeld, Atiba Gauthier, Kevin Vallejos, David Martinez, Suk Hyun Ko,
That's another tough one. I feel like you can legitimately make an argument for all of the nominees, and the winners are. So you went with David Martinez. I went with Ateba Gaudier. Why'd you go with David Martinez?
Yeah, the reason, again, like you said, a lot of good choices there. The reason I went with David Martinez is because, he made his splash getting into the UFC with a first-round finish over Simon Oliveira, who not a lot of people were crazy high on. Then he gets a big step up, a guy in Rob Font who, that fight was about a pick 'em. Rob Font, a lot of respect over the years in the organization. The fact that he beat Rob Font, and to me, he looked really good doing it. I'm high on him moving forward, so that's why I went with him as the Rookie of the Year. He got a lot of he answered a lot of questions, and getting a fight like that in your second UFC fight is no easy task. And the fact that he passed it in the way he did, to me, is it makes him deserving of the award.
Yeah, no, I agree. I know I should have, or maybe not should have, but I could have gone Vallejos. I think that the way he ended the year was super impressive, and getting himself into the rankings, I believe that he's probably higher ranked than anyone on this list at this point. But that being said, man, Ateba Gaudier, he just stands out from the pack. I mean, when you see him, you see the physique, you see just the look in his opponent's eyes when they stand across from him. I mean, he just brings a different kind of fear that I haven't seen since the Francis Ngannou days. And I'm talking about when Francis first came into the UFC. And yeah, for that reason, Ateba Gaudier is my Rookie of the Year. So let's see what he does next year. Now, this next category, this is our first time introducing this category, the Fraudcheck of the Year. I know that this term has blown up. People love using it. So we're going to run with it, and we're going to talk about the 2025 Fraudcheck of the Year. And my friends, the nominees are.
Here are the nominees for 2025 Fraudcheck of the Year. Oban Elliott vs. Sakhyun Ko, UFC Baku. Patchy Mix vs. Mario Bautista, UFC 316. Diego Lopez vs. Gene Silva, Noche UFC. Josias Masasa vs. Carlos Vera, UFC Vegas 104.
And the winners are. Interesting choice, Gombas. I didn't see that coming from a mile away, especially considering that the guy you picked is a top 10 guy. Why did you pick that as your Fraudcheck of the Year?
Dude, I really didn't think about the mix fight. If I had thought of that, I probably would have picked that too. But the reason why this popped into my head is because Silva was getting so much. Silva was so, the hype behind him was huge. Like, he's a monster. He's this, he's that. He's gonna run through everyone. He's minus 250. Diego Lopes made him look like a child at times in that fight. Like, on the mat, he was in mount, and there was nothing Silva could do. And on the feet, he knocked him out. And it was just a, you're not that guy who everyone says you are type of moment for me. Not that he's not. Fraudcheck's not even the right word, because I don't think he's a fraud in the sense that he's like not good at MMA or that he won't win fights in UFC. But from where he was put on this pedestal to that fight, there was such a gap for me between, this guy's unbeatable to, things are a little bit different now.
It was a clear winner for me, and it was Patchy Mix. I mean, the kind of hype this guy had coming into the UFC, I mean, not only from himself, but from other people saying that this is the best bantamweight on planet Earth. You had Patchy Mix talking about how he's not just going to beat up Mario Bautista. He's going to go submit Mario Bautista's coaches too. And like the kind of shit that he was talking about, how like, you're just going to win this fight, go get a title shot, be the longest reigning champ. I was like, dude, like relax, bro. You haven't even made your UFC debut. And when you take it a step further, he didn't even look that good in his last, Bellator PFL fight against Magomedov. A lot of us thought he lost that fight. So he comes in the UFC against Mario Bautista. It just looks awful. I mean, like, doesn't know how to strike. This is like a world-class guy, Gombas. This is a guy who had like a 23-3 record or something like that coming to the, like, it was one of those ridiculous records. And he looked like, I've seen people in day one of Taibo class with better striking technique than Patchy Mix. So, and then his next fight against Wilcox or whatever, like a lot of us thought he actually won that fight, but we can also agree he looked like shit in that fight too. So yeah, Patchy Mix, fraud of the year and Fraudcheck of the year against Bautista for me, my man. Now, story of the year. This is an interesting one because I know there were a couple clear-cut options. So let's see what we went with for the story of the year. Give me 1 second. So, okay, I see what's going on. So I don't think there's any nominees for this. I think we just have a winner. Okay, here we go. So you went with the bantamweight carousel because I mean a lot of us thought Merab was going to end the year as champ, go on to reign for many years to come, and that came to a screeching halt. So why did you go with the bantamweight carousel?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Merab because he allowed, he made that possible by fighting so much in 2025. Like if you think about how much like the average champion fights, you don't see guys fighting 4 times in a calendar year. And if you look who he fought against, Umar, O'Malley, Sandhagen, and Jan, like to do that in a year is just literally putting the company on your back. And the way it happened too, right? Like for the year starts off with Merab and Umar having what, in my opinion, was the fight of the year, one of the fights in the year. Merab dominating O'Malley, Merab fighting Sandhagen and winning, and then Jan beating Merab after kind of, he had a fine performance against Marcus McGee, but like he dropped a round to Marcus McGee, and it's like, okay, so he went from a 29-28 against Marcus McGee to 50-45ing Merab Dvalishvili. And then you have guys like, Umar fights again after Umar loses to Merab, comes back and beats Mario Batista. And that's after Mario Batista has that win that you just mentioned over Patchy Mix, which, was a big moment in bantamweight. There was just so much that happened at that weight division in such a short amount of time. Like you could even talk about Sandhagen. Like, he has that fight, that main event slot against Figueiredo, gets a crack at Merab that a lot of people wanted to see him get, but he gets taken down 20 times or whatever. It was just pure chaos, in which my opinion is a lot of the most skilled fighters in the UFC. So a lot of fun at that weight class. And carousel is the perfect word to describe it because it was like a never-ending merry-go-round.
Yeah, that's a great one. For me, I went with the UFC telling ESPN, thank you, come again. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, that is like ridiculous to tell ESPN, yeah, we're good. Best of luck in your future endeavors. Like, dude, you don't just tell ESPN something like that. And the fact that they did, and then a report came out that ESPN lost like 200 to 300K subscribers all in the span of a month because of the UFC deal. And now the UFC is going to Paramount. And you heard Dana talking about how to be a fan during the ESPN era costed like $1,300. To be a fan during the Paramount era cost like what, 100 to 150 bucks or something. Like, okay, yeah, that's my story of the year. So congrats to the UFC, and hopefully it's a very lucrative deal. Now, this is an interesting one. We got to announce who we think our pound for pound fighter is right here, right now, meaning that not pound for pound, at the beginning of the year, but pound for pound right this second at 341 on December 23rd, Tuesday. And that answer is so you went Chimaev. I went Topuria. Tell us why you went Chimaev.
Yeah, I went Topuria last year, I believe. If not, it's really close. And I don't know how much this is supposed to play a factor or not, but because of the out of the octagon stuff with Topuria, I kind of put it to the side a little bit. Chimaev, just in my opinion, is so dominant, like I mentioned earlier in that performance against DDP, who was a legit champ, and just mopped the floor with him for 5 rounds. I think he's incredible. And there's a lot of guys too. Like Islam is still at the top of his game. I think that Topuria is obviously incredible as well. But yeah, I went with Chimaev just because of the pure dominance factor.
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand. I went with Topuria, man. If I know I'd have a better argument if, the stuff that's happening now wasn't going on, but I mean, that's outside the cage. Inside the octagon, I think he's the best. I think that his striking, his grappling, just the whole complete package doesn't get better than Ilia Topuria. 1 belts in 2 different weight classes. I mean, what else does this guy have to do? I know, defend the lightweight belt, but that's coming soon. So yeah, for that reason, Topuria is my #1 pound for pound fighter currently on the UFC roster. Quick shout out to our boy Hey Jive Picks with the $10 dono. Congrats on 10K, brother. Hope 2026 is even bigger. Thank you so much. And shout out to Hey Jive. He's the man. And I know you already know exactly who he is. And if you don't, get your shit together, young man. You know what I'm saying? Hey Jive's the man. Now, this is my favorite category, Gombas. We finally got to it. The 2025 Jay Perrin Jobber of the Year. The way that Jay Perrin acted before the Raul Rosas fight, I'll never forget. And there's a reason that this award was named after him. So let's see who won our annual Jay Perrin Jobber of the Year award. And we had a consensus pick. It had to be Isaac Dulgarian. And Gombas, I don't know if you remember this, but you came on this very show 2 years ago, and you predicted Isaac Dulgarian to become a UFC world champion. And I'm just setting the table saying that because that's the kind of regard we held this guy in. That's how skilled and talented this guy is. And for him to go out there and fix a fight, he wants to take a little short-term game as opposed to, hey, like, wait it out, win a couple more fights. You're going to get there. You are that talented. You are that good. He didn't want to play the long game. He wanted to get a quick little paycheck. And as a result, it costed him his career. But hey, congrats, kid. You won the 2025 Jay Perrin Jobber of the Year. Gombas, I know it was a no-brainer, but tell the fans why. I mean, you agreed with me on this one.
Yeah, I'm switching my prediction of UFC champion to prison yard champion. But yeah, man, like you said, really, it's funny, but it's sad too. Like super, super skilled guy. Obviously, the fight day line move was very irregular. Dana gives him one last shot to get out of it and says, hey, there's something going on here. And this is according to Dana. And he allegedly says, no, I'm going to beat this guy's ass. Goes out there, puts on a very, very, very obvious fixed fight. And people, you're not fooling it. Who do you think you're fooling? I mean, come on, man. And for what? You make a few bucks, your career's over. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen anything like it in all my years watching this sport, except for his former teammate, Darrick Minner. And speaking of which, our next category, the 2025 Darrick Minner Stunt of the Year. Similar to Jay Perrin, I mean, we couldn't help but name this award after Darrick Minner for the absolute stunt he pulled against Shailan Nurdanbeki, kicked off one of the biggest betting controversies in the history of the sport. So I'm curious if anyone can hold a candle to the stunt Darrick Minner did. And we're about to find out because the winner of the 2025 Darrick Minner Stunt of the Year award goes to Hey, congrats, Isaac Dulgarian. You didn't just win one award on this show. You won 2 because he's not just the Jay Perrin Jobber of the Year. He's also the award winner of the 2025 Darrick Minner Stunt of the Year. I mean, I haven't been that disgusted watching a fight since the Darrick Minner fight, And yeah. You want to know something terrible? I actually bet on Dulgarian against Delvi. I mean, I'm like, bro, Delvi gets taken down against all these, against guys that don't have half the wrestling credentials of Isaac Dulgarian. And when you see that half-hearted shot, I mean, you're a former, college wrestler. I'm a jiu-jitsu purple belt. Like, you and I have grappled before, and you and I knew the second we saw that fight happening that there's no way. Like, yeah. Are you being serious right now? Like, is this some kind of sick joke? So yeah, it was a no-brainer. He wins my 2025 Darrick Minner Stunt of the Year. Congrats, Isaac.
Yeah, very similar thoughts and comments here. Quick update on Darrick Minner. I don't know if you know this, Dan, but he returned to the cage this year for the first time since the incident, for lack of a better term. So 3 years out of the octagon, he came back to an organization called DCS, Dynasty Combat Sports, where he lost a split decision to a guy named Brock Hamer. And then he returned again later that year and won by Twister. So not sure if you knew this, but our 2022 Stunt of the Year recipient is back to competing again.
Wow. So maybe when Isaac Bulgarian has these fights in the prison yard, maybe they're going to appear on his Tapology page, see some red or some green stripes. We'll see what happens. Now, this next category is always a good one. The Handicapper of the Year, but not just the Handicapper of the Year, the Andrew Gombas Handicapper of the Year. And the reason it's named after you is because, Andrew, you're the only man in half the battle history to win this award twice. And now someone else is going to join you in this very prestigious and illustrious category. So let's see who wins the 2025 Andrew Gombas Handicapper of the Year. So I actually picked two people. I couldn't just pick one. And these two, they showed the kinds of things that are possible in handicapping. And I went with Marlo Stanfield and Lucrative MMA. And Marlo actually was nice enough to send us a little video accepting his award.
And the man, I appreciate the nomination. I want to thank you for everything that you've done this year, production-wise, gems that you've dropped on the YouTube videos. I was going to quit this whole thing this year, even though I profited, but you've advised me not to. And I'm going to aim to do 10-0, 10 years in a row of profit. So yeah, man, Happy New Year. Spend some time with your family. And let's kill 2026 together. Us against the bookies, always.
And my other Handicapper of the Year, Mr. Lucrative James.
What's going on, fellas?
James, congratulations, man. You're the 2025 Handicapper of the Year.
Thank you very much, my man. First of all, can you hear me right now?
Yes.
Perfect. No background disturbance.
You're good.
Right now, I'm overlooking a bunch of rowdy Englishmen. Obviously, I'm the sober one. I'm on the water right now. Bunch of rowdy Englishmen celebrating Christmas. But I had to come on here. I had to take some time away to come and say thank you very much, man. Obviously, I've said from the start, I look up to you a lot. You are OG in the content space. You make great content. You sharp bets. You've been in the game for a long time. And if I wasn't watching your podcast way back when, I may never have made my own, So thank you very much for the award. Very much appreciate it. And same thing with Andrew Gombas. He's one of the only ones in the space that's gone on to be so successful post making content. Hopefully you come back to the content space one day, but I know you're busy at the moment, man. But yeah, thank you very much, guys. And a pleasure to be the Handicapper of the Year. It's been a great year.
Absolutely. You deserve it, my man. And Andrew, guess what, man? Your Handicapper of the Year is here too. Tell us why you went with Dravi.
Yeah, I went with Dravi because he ton of volume, really good results, double-digit ROI, hit the 100-unit mark on the last event of the year, I believe, and yeah, just crushed it in all aspects, from sides, totals to props to other organizations. It reminded me a lot of myself when I was kind of making my own way. He just grinds, and I really admire that. And yeah, a few people had really great years, and Javi's my Handicapper of the Year, and hopefully if James sticks around for a little while, there may be another award coming in the next category.
Dravi, congrats, man. You're the 2025 Handicapper of the Year.
Hey, thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And yeah, after last year, you guys remember last year, right? Crazy variance all over the board, and a lot of people were having a bad year and stuff like that. And even myself, sometimes I was questioning myself, when you go up in unit size and stuff like that, sometimes it's a bit more stress. I'm sure Andrew and James know that for a fact, with betting bigger units and stuff like that. So at first it was not easy, but very happy the way the year turns out for me. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. And then again, the content you did this year, congrats to you on that. Been a bless. the graphics and everything. Always a fun watch. And Andrew, we've been talking a bit, but people don't know. But you're still killing it, man. So keep doing your thing. I've been looking towards people like you guys when I started doing this. So very, very glad to be here on the show. And thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I don't know if you guys got to go. Lucrative, stay around for a couple more minutes. Dravi, you can go or you can stay. If you want to do the rest with us, that's completely your call. And
what's left?
Well, we got to do the comeback capper of the year, and then we're going to talk about our best and worst bets of the year, and as well as our prospects to watch next year, and then lastly, our champions this time next year. So
I'm down to do it.
Okay, cool. Well, first of all, we got to talk about the comeback capper of the year. So Andrew Gombas named this category after me because I had a losing year, and then I bounced back with my best year. So he honored me with that award. I appreciate it. And ever since then, it's become a yearly thing. And this year, we have a winner. So check it out. The winner of the Dan Levy Comeback Capper of the Year is James, walking away with 2 awards. Say, listen, James, I didn't even know you had a losing year last year. Gombas let me know. I was like, okay, it's a no-brainer. For you to bounce back the way you did and put up this insane year. I mean, Gombas, you want to touch on it?
Yeah, it was a really easy pick for me. Obviously, you know, James, you've been in the space for a long time. Really haven't done anything but win for a long time up until last year. And obviously, you know, if any of us do this for a long time, we'll run into adversity multiple times. And so that was really the, you know, at least from what I've seen, that was the first time that you've had that kind of downswing. And, you know, you've been successful in a lot of areas in life and could have taken things in many different directions. You put yourself out there on Twitter and on social media in general, like in a way where you're susceptible, where there's people who are going to naturally want to see you lose. And it, you know, I know you, like, I've known you for a long time. I know you in real life. Like, you're not a very, like, people be surprised that, like, that you're a humble person in real life, but that's not always that's not always what you give off on online. And so there's a lot of people who in my opinion were probably happy to see you lose. Oh, you know, this guy posted a video in a nice car saying how much money he has and how great he is, and now he's losing. So that just doubles it. You know, I even remember just being a little bit more out there with my stuff. It adds pressure to it. Anyone who says otherwise is lying. So to basically have your back against the wall after that and not go anywhere, instead stand your ground and have one of the best years I've ever seen anyone have, is just a testament to the kind of skills, not only the kind of skills that you have, but the kind of person you are. So congrats on all the success, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it in the future.
Thank you very much, bro. It means a lot coming from you. It was definitely a tough time last year, and yeah, man, it was a tough time, but what can you do? You know, the only option you have is to rise up again. I'm not going to quit the game. I ain't going to fucking quit social media. You know, there's literally no other option than to keep doing what I have been doing for most of the time that I've been online, which is win. So that's what I'm most proud of. I'm not going to lie, you know, coming, not just the results I've had this year, but the fact that it came after the losing period I had last year. That's really what I'm most proud of. And if there's a lesson in this to anybody, because everybody that watches us bets on MMA, and a lot of people that watch us bet on MMA and lose on MMA, right? Whether they show that online or not, if there is any lesson to that, it would literally be just to reassess, recollect, recalibrate, and come back stronger. You can always make adjustments. I made adjustments this year. I made adjustments middle of the year, beginning of the year, last year as well. And no matter what you do in life, you're always going to fail, but you have to keep on pushing on. And yeah, that's really what makes you, you know, whether you quit or lose. If you don't quit, you can't fail at the end of the day. You know, if you keep trying, you can only win, man. So yeah, once again, for another award, appreciate it. And it means a lot coming from you.
Yes, sir. So congrats, Dravi, Marlo Stanfield, and Lucrative James on winning the 2025 Handicapper of the Year. And congrats to James on winning the 2025 Comeback Capper of the Year. So now we're going to talk about our best bets of 2025. So, you know, give 1 to 5 bets of your best bets of the year. So for me, my best bets of the year, it started at the beginning of the year with RDR versus Kevin Holland. I mean, we were on the Fade Kevin Holland World Tour. They gave me dog odds on RDR. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. That had to be up there. Also, Josh Van dog money against Royval. Come on, son. And then they gave me the opportunity to fade Marvin Vittori twice at dog odds in 2025. The ghost of Marvin Vittori, you know, against Roman Dolidze and Bruno Ferreira, two of my favorite bets of the year. And then recently, and you might say this is recency bias, but I thought Cesare Olegzaychuk against Almeida was an incredible bet at -175. He looked -1750. There was never a second in that fight where I was concerned at all. It was as smooth sailing as it gets. So those are my best bets of 2025. Gombas, what are yours?
Yeah, I'll give 2 as well. This is going to be my 3rd time talking about it on this podcast, but Tony Barcelos, first pay-per-view of the year, plus 700 or plus 650, whatever it was, against Peyton Talbot. Probably my best. Second best, I'll say Shevchenko against Zhang. Pretty competitively lined fight and not a competitive fight at all. So I'd say those were my best 2.
Dravi, what about you?
Yeah, I have 3. So Peter Yan plus 400 against Merab. You know,
Nice.
it's recent, a very good one. Song Young Ko plus 400 over Oban Elliott, and Yorsi Begari plus 250 over Bekoev.
Ooh, that Bekoya fade was beautiful. Lucrative, what about you?
I have to go with my boy Sukhyung Ko, man. I mean, in both of his fights over Phil Rowe and Oban Elliott, he looked 90% in both fights, maybe 95 in the Oban fight. And he was -180 against Phil Rowe. For me, I got plus 450. I tracked a lot less on BetMMA, but I got plus 450 on his money line against Oban Elliott. And I had 1 unit on his decision at plus 1,000. So it was 9 unit cash on the money line, 2 units on plus 450, and 1 unit on a 10 to 1 shot. So on one fight, it was a 20 unit win when I only outlaid 3 units, 2 on the money line, 1 on the decision. So that was my biggest cash ever on one bet when you're talking about units won. So that's going to be my one. Boys, I have to shoot off now. I'm going to go back and go with the family. Happy holidays to anyone who celebrates. Dan looking like he celebrates down there. So yeah, shout out to you guys. Love to all you guys' family. Take some time off. Take the break as a time to refresh. And we come back and crush it in 2026, boys, man. All of us, continued success, love and peace to all the viewers as well. Peace out.
Congratulations, brother. Congrats.
Thank you, man. Bye.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Take care, my friend. All right. Now it's the 3 of us. All right. So now we got to talk about the worst bets of the year. So again, 1 to 5 bets. My worst bets of the year, I bet on the ghost of Zaleski twice against Chitty and against Magny. Got smoked in both those fights. Now he just got released from the UFC. That's got to be one of the worst bets, not just of this year, but that I've probably ever made in my life. And then Luis Gurule against Jesus Aguilar. I don't understand what my thought process was to lay a chalk price on him in that spot. Just a terrible bet. And then last but not least, I mean, this might be my worst bet of the year. And that was Ibo Aslan at -250 against Billy Elakana. I was like, listen, man, I mean, Ibo only lost to Iwan Kutalaba. You're telling me he's going to lose to a guy with Can, you know, in his last name? And look, all jokes aside, this guy went to Dagestan 8 weeks and forget how to fight, which I did not see coming. And the guy forgot how to fight. And not only is, you know, Ibo versus Billy Elakana my worst bet of the year, that might be the worst fight of the year, if you want to call it a fight. But either way, that's my worst bet of the year. Gombas, what about you?
Yeah, I went with 2 here as well. First and foremost, Isaac Dolgarian versus Del Val for obvious reasons. Obviously, we've talked about that one a couple times, but yeah, that one, a little bit of humor there. And then my actual worst one was probably Kai Kara-France versus Pantoja. I thought that fight was going to be competitive. I really liked Kai Kara-France at dog odds, and Pantoja just kind of smoked him. I feel like if they fought 100 times, you know, Pantoja would win 90 of them.
What about you, buddy?
Yeah, so one of them is actually the opposite of one of Gombas' best bets. So I had Weili Zhang at dog odds versus Valentina. That was a very bad one, you know, domination, weight class for a reason. And the last one is Roman Dolidze over Fluffy. Big underdog, but he got smashed. And, I saw one of your submission of the year. What Fluffy did to him was pretty nasty. So, yeah, it was a terrible one. We all make bad bets, right? So it's part of the game.
Dude, I laid extreme chalk on Fluffy live in between rounds because I thought there was no chance he was going to lose after, like, I think it was between the second and third or between the first and second. It was a stupid price, but it was like I was viewing it like it was Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul. I mean, after I'd already seen a round or two happen, so live between rounds, I laid a stupid price and it paid off that time. But I don't recommend trying this at home, kids. Now, we got to say our prospects to look out for next year. So it can be one prospect, can be up to 5. So prospects to look out for. So for me, I went with Myron Santos. I know that the striking can be a little bit on the lower volume side, but I think that he's a bit of a special striker. And I think that his takedown defense is getting a lot better. He's only 25 years old. I think he's absolutely someone to look out for. Cezary Oleksiejczuk, I mentioned him. That last fight against Almeida was as sweat-free of a 30-27 as you can get. Baysangur Susurkaev. I know people hate this guy. I know people are calling this guy a fraud, but he's only 24 years old. I think he's extremely talented. I think he's not exempt from getting humbled. I think he's probably going to have to take a setback at some point, but I think that's going to be the best thing to ever happen to him. And I think the talent and the skill are there. Ethan Ewing, he got a big upset over my guy, Malcolm Wellmaker. And I think that was a product of Ethan Ewing being a very good fighter. I think he's going to go on to do great things. And then Malcolm Wellmaker, I think just because he had one loss, you should not write this guy off. I think he's got a very bright future. And I think that L was actually probably the best thing to ever happen to him. So those are my 5. What about you, Gombas?
I just went with 1, Gable Steveson. Obviously, Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, making the transition over to MMA. And if you've watched, his 2 full minutes of fight times, he's had three MMA fights, and it's gone a combined like 2 minutes. He's so athletic for a heavyweight. His wrestling's obviously incredible, and I think he would beat guys in the UFC top 10 right now, and that's with 2 minutes of cage time. So I think he's a guy who hopefully we see in the UFC like immediately. I don't think he's not one of those people that needs a lot of time on the regionals.
Who you got, Gable Stevenson or Walter Walker?
Gable Stevenson.
So no heel hook?
Not this time.
Dravi, what about you, my man?
Quinlan Salkin. Dan, 25 years old. I've called this guy best prospect of Dana White Contender Series last year. Got some hate for that. And, after the last knockout, he just got, young, cardio, grappling, durability, striking is getting better. And he just got a big step up in competition in a fight that everybody was saying it's going to be close. Big step up in competition. Remember, he took that fight on short notice against Nasrat, flew all the way across the world, and he knocked him out all cold with a beautiful head kick. So I think sky's the limit for this guy. And I think same time next year, he'll be in the top 10. So yeah, we'll see.
Who do you think he's going to fight next? Because Rong Zhu pulled out.
I honestly have no idea. I was thinking about it myself when I was checking the ranking, and I think he's going to get one more before getting into the top 15. And then after that, he's going to get a top 15 guy. But I don't know who, actually. Do you have any one in mind?
Is John Makdessi still on the roster?
No, he's not.
What about Drakkar Close?
Yeah, I would like that.
Okay.
I think he will knock him out.
Yeah, I think, having him fight such a established vet of the sport, I think that's the way to go for sure. I mean, he just beat Nasrat, and the way he did it, yeah, very, very impressive. Or, what about Bobby Green? Like Bobby Green versus Quinlan Salkild? I like that too. So there's lots of options. But like that's the kind of guy I want to see him in there with. Like one of those two guys, Drew Dober, something like that.
I'm down for that.
Yeah. So last but not least, our champions this time next year. So we're going to go category by category. So we'll go flyweight. I name my flyweight. Since we're listed like this, we'll go me, Dravi, Gombas, and then I'll go bantamweight, me, Dravi, Gombas. All right. So men's flyweight, I think you all know damn well what my answer is, and that is Mr. Manel Cape. Dravi?
I'll go with Pantoja.
Yeah, just name it. Just name it.
I went with Tatsuro Taira, so all 3 of us picked a different one to start off. That's cool.
Okay. Now 135, Umar Nurmagomedov.
Peter Yan.
Peter Yan.
Okay, interesting. You know, the reason I didn't pick him, I told y'all earlier, is because not because I don't think he's that good, but because he can be inconsistent at times. He had just as good of a performance against Aljo the first time as he did against Marab, in my opinion. And then his subsequent fights, he has like these hit or miss performances. I'd love to see Peter reign, but we'll see what happens. So featherweight, I'm going with an off the cusp one here. I'm going with Mr. Leron Murphy.
I'll take Gene Silva.
Oh.
Mavsar Voilov.
Okay, well, Gombas, one of us is probably going to be right because I think our two guys are fighting for a #1 contender spot. So let's go. 155, Arman Sarukian.
This one is tough, man. Topuria.
I went with Arman Sarukian as well.
So now we got 170, Michael Morales.
Islam Makhachev.
Islam Makhachev.
185, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez.
Hamzat Chimaev.
Hamzat Chimaev.
205, Carlos Olberg.
Hiri Proaska.
Magomed Ankalaev.
Heavyweight, Tom Aspinall.
Cyril Gunn.
John Jones.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. All right.
Okay.
Women's strawweight, Zhang Weili.
John Whaley.
John Whaley.
Okay. We got our first consensus. Women's 125, Natalia Silva.
Oh, man. Manon Fiorot.
Manon Fiorot.
And last but not least, 135, Mrs. Kayla Harrison.
Kayla Harrison, I agree.
Awesome.
Kayla Harrison.
Okay. So we got two consensus. All right, Dravi, I'm gonna get you out of here. Dravi, congrats on winning the Handicapper of the Year. It's well deserved. And best of luck next year and Merry Christmas, my friend.
Hey, thank you guys. Happy holidays. Take care.
Yes, sir. See you, brother. Gombas, man, we did it, brother. The 2025 Half the Battle year-end award show is now officially in the books. We've given our winners. And man, this show keeps getting better every single year. Shout out the GOAT Meticulous for the incredible work he does behind the scenes. I mean, for leveling up Half the Battle the way you have. You're the man. And Gombas, I mean, you looking forward to this next year?
Yeah, man, I am. I think I mentioned to you before we started, it was kind of 2025 was a little bit of a weird year in MMA for various reasons. I think 2026 has a lot of promise. It has a lot of promise. Like we talked about our predictions for who's going to be champ at the end of next year, and we didn't have a single unanimous agreement in the men's division. So I think that makes for a lot of fun when you got guys like 125 like Manel Kopp and Josh Van and Tyra, who are all just, you know, so good in their own right. At 135, I mentioned earlier the carousel of what happened last year. I don't think it's slowing down anytime soon. There's so many good fighters there near the top of the division. And then you've got, you know, a wide open, in my opinion, 145. Is Volk really going to hang on to this thing for another year? 55, Topuria is incredible, but the out of the cage stuff and a guy like Arman knocking on the door. 170, Makhachev, can he really, again, it's kind of like Volk, can he really hang on to this another year? Chimaev, who was my, you know, pound for pound #1. Is anyone going to challenge him? Is anyone going to push him? Because there's guys there that have a shot. And then 205, Ankalaev beats Perrin, gets knocked out by him. Is it going to be one of them? Is it going to be someone new? And then heavyweight, I went a little bit off on the wild there and said John Jones, but there's a lot that could happen there as well. I mean, there's unfinished business between Aspinall and Cyril Gane because Aspinall is a big favorite. Gane had a pretty good first few minutes, and it seems like a lot of people are flipping their opinion on that now. And it's okay. Did they really see something in those first few minutes, or was it too much too soon? A little bit, you know, jumping to conclusions. So yeah, a lot of question marks, a lot of parity, which I think is going to make for an exciting year.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Gombas. To the fans, thank you all so much for all your support. Please smash that like button, hit the subscribe, leave me a comment. And then next week, this is still before the New Year's, I got my other annual show with my boy Liam Picks Fights, our 10 boldest predictions for the new year. So that's going to come on Tuesday. So make sure y'all tap in with me then. Make sure you'll follow my boy Gombas at Bets and Picks MMA. Follow me at Best Fight Picks, Half the Battle Pod on Instagram, Half the Battle Podcast on TikTok. Sincere thank you to all the fans for all your support. I really appreciate it. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Hope you all have a great time. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.